Mo. How are you, sir?
I am doing well. Thank you, Brett. How are you today?
I'm awesome. A little tear. This is our final Mojo Monday of 2022, right? This is the
Wow.
last one.
Yep. We're winding down, ready to crank up a 23.
And I can't believe we've done 80 of these things already. But it's pretty amazing when you put your mind to something and you do it. We're excited about bringing Mojo Monday to you again in 2023. But before we do, we're going to wrap it up with a really cool conversation. Perception versus reality. And Rick, a lot of people say, oh, perception is reality. Well, is reality not reality if perception is reality? We've got a fun way to talk about it today. Why don't you kick us off with your thoughts around perception versus reality?
Well, here's the thing. The problem with reality is there's a perception that it changes. And the truth is, reality is what it is. It's how you see it and the lens in which you look at things. And there's a saying that we're taught here at our company that, if you change the way change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, which is a perfect example of perception shifting a version of reality. And, I think the bigger question isn't whether, you should look at reality where the perception and reality are divided, but is it serving you? And how are you winning with whatever perception you have of that reality? And is your perception of reality, again, leading to an outcome that favors you?
All of a sudden, I'm thinking about the movie The Matrix, and if I think this way, my matrix looks this way. But if I change the way I think, all of a sudden, my matrix looks a whole different way.
Yeah.
And maybe today is about changing our matrix for 2023 or changing the way we think about certain realities that may or may not be 100% true, right? So
Absolutely.
let's go. Let's start with make me hungry.
Make me hungry.
Yeah, I know where we're going.
So you do know where you ready to publish it. So let's first ask the question. So and this all started last night when I went in to grab some ice cream and I declared, man, I sure love some butter pecan. And I think I'm the only one in my family that really loves butter pecan. Everyone's like, yeah, you can have that. And meanwhile, I said, man, surely it's a top 5 ice cream. And I got that look of, no, it's not. And so I went out to prove it. So I started Googling to see the top 10 ice creams popularity wise. And anyway, long story short, it did make the list, and it depends on the list, which is that perception versus reality. And so I would challenge everyone today, write down the top 5 ice creams in order in terms of popularity for 2022. And in about 10 seconds, we're going to reveal the list from, I think you said Newsweek was one source. We had the National Dairy Association.
Got the National Dairy on the screen, but
National Dairy's coming. So take a second, write the top 5 down. I bet you'll be surprised.
I mean, Rick, just for fun, I know you know the answers, but what would have been your top 5 list?
Well, vanilla 10 out of 10 times, but not because I think vanilla is the most popular, but because I think vanilla is the best complement to lots of dessert treats. A lot of people use vanilla as an accompanying flavor.
A la mode, right?
A la mode, man. What a great term.
Well, so here's the list. And guess what? Chocolate's number 1. And now that I think about it, I would have said vanilla, but I actually love chocolate more. I probably would rank chocolate. The one that gets me is cookies and cream.
Who'd have guessed it?
I had no idea that was more popular than vanilla, according to this list. But certainly chocolate and vanilla are top 2 or 3. And then strawberries a close behind. Obviously, what is it, Neapolitan? They just put all 3 together and say, here you go, you decide.
Yeah, that's borderline cheating. But in life, if you're selling yourself to a consumer, or you're trying to promote your unique value proposition, kind of makes sense to give people a choice. If you have a choice of 3, how often are you going to win? So, if you're a one-lane, one-trick pony, that could be detrimental in a shifting market where your assets might be better served pointed in a different direction to serve a different community. So that's an overt thought, on top of all of this. But I tell you, what's funny about marketing, let me add one thing. After seeing the list, I went into the kitchen to grab my butter pecan and noticed there were some cookies and cream stashed next to it. And guess what I ate? Cookies
You
and
ate-
cream. They planted a seed and I went, you know what? I haven't had that in a while. And so how often do we get stuck in one, lane and one groove? And man, I would reach for butter pecan 10 out of 10 times. And last night I didn't. And I was rewarded with a little diversity for my taste buds.
Yeah, of course. So I think that is this a marketing conversation? Is this a mindset conversation? It's probably a little bit of both, right? I think
Absolutely.
everything's got to happen in your mind first around perception, and then reality makes its way. But when you're marketing your business, you kind of have to make some decisions and put the perception out there, put the reality out there. Um, you know, walk me through that. Like, if I'm a real estate professional, or I'm a sales professional, I'm a small business entrepreneur, my clients' perceptions are my reality, but I do make choices in how I present my business, right?
You do. And maybe it's not a complete departure from what you perceive your value proposition to be and what's worked for you over and over and over. The question is, will it work for you as well or better in a climate shift? And I mean, climate in terms of economics or interest rate hikes or supply demand, changing over time. Maybe it's REO creeps back in, new construction takes on, new light. There's, land, commercial, there's a million lanes when it comes to the real estate industry. And so maybe it's not changed from, so if vanilla is your flavor, maybe it's offer sprinkles or chocolate or caramel sauce, or, what do you do to modify your flavor to be more appealing to a consumer that's starved right now for quality content, quality information, quality fiduciary representation?
Yeah.
What's the voice of reason in the face of uncertainty? That's the question you should be asking yourself. And then how do you deliver that context?
I was taught a long time ago by a really smart guy named Gary Keller. He said, your fundamentals of how you approach your business don't change. Your messaging changes depending on the economic circumstances. So your flavor ice cream is still the same. It's your sprinkles or your caramel sauce that changes based on what's going on around you economically. So I mean, I believe we're already in a shifting economy. I think I could prove it at this point.
Yeah.
And I definitely believe 2023 is going to be a shifted economy. So does that mean really change your ice cream flavor in our analogy, or change the way you present it, or maybe add a sprinkle to it? I think that's what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, and Gary also introduced us to a book. I believe the fellow's last name was Trout, Trout. Reese it was co-written by Reese and Trout. Those are the last names, Reis and Trout. And it's something marketing. It's a marketing book, basically. And, if you didn't go read it, which I highly recommend, it's an old school marketing book and advertising book. But he talked about two things, the method and the message. And so, we kind of hit on the message. You need to modify the message so that the listener really hears you and perks up and gets excited to hear what you have, which means telling a current story that's valid and accurate, and also one that's absorbable, if you will, by the receiver. But the other is you may have to change how you deliver it because of the way we're communicating in shifting times too. And so, the story I'm promoting is that now may be the time to do direct mail instead of email, more texting instead of, other sources of communication. And the ideal hierarchy of connecting is face to face, belly to belly, toe to toe, and becoming very proactive and having conversations. There it is, positioning, the battle for the mind. I think it is. Yep, there it is. So that's the book. Great book. Gary Keller recommended it. I read it years and years ago. And it just reminded me the message is important, but the method of delivery is equally important. And again, if we're talking about perception versus reality, don't just assume that your perception is that what you did in the past will always work in the future. And if it's not delivering, now's the time to recalibrate and reset your intentionality around how you're communicating value.
I had a conversation last week about video, and all of a sudden that the TikToks of the world, the reels on Instagram and Facebook, like that is the messaging way right now. And that means we got to learn it. That means we got to change if we want to use that method to get our message out. And sometimes things evolve, right? That's a drastic
100%.
than putting postcards in the mail 10 years ago.
Yeah, but it still has shelf life because so few people do direct mail, other than I will say during the holiday season, I'm getting hammered with just random things normally that don't show up. But how many times do you flip through items on the top of your counter before you throw them away, and finally at the end of the month go through to find what really matters? So I'm not saying do it or don't do it. I'm just saying until you try something new, you won't know, your shifted perception won't exist because you'll just keep doing what do they say? Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different experience or result.
So Rick, let me take us somewhere. So a lot of people will do New Year's resolutions. There's a line in the sand, January 1st, that happens every year. And sometimes we're rethinking our business, we're rethinking our health, we're rethinking our life when the new year gets here. If we're listening to the message today and we're repositioning things in our mind for 2023, what's your best advice?
Just take a hard look around you and make sure that you're not, ignoring red flags, because they usually show up. And the problem with, I think, critical decision making in your approach or your marketing or your executables is that you wait too long to try something new and do something different. And then the second half of the equation is when you do try something, you've got to track it to know that it's working. And it has to be for a sustainable amount of time. You can't try something once and expect that if it didn't work, that it's a failure, just like, farming a community or neighborhood or taking on a new, demographic, geographic, socioeconomic farm, or there's lots of farms. It's not always just physical farms. But I would say, one, try it sooner than later. Two, pay real close attention to the investment financially to make sure that you're not throwing money after something that may or may not work. There are some very economical paths to succeeding with trying new things. And again, face-to-face phone calls, that never goes out of style. And picking up the phone is probably the number one thing you can do in 23 that you were too busy in 2022 to do as well as you could have. And, one of the things, by the way, I hear often is, I haven't called him in a year or two and I feel bad. You know what? They've not been tracking you. Get real. Get over yourself. Put your ego on a shelf. If you're worried that that's true, call them. The first thing you should say is something like, hey, I have to confess, I've been so busy chasing lots of opportunities with business. I've forgotten a few old friends that really matter. And I haven't forgotten, but I just haven't stayed in touch. I just wanted to reach out and tell you how much I appreciate you and wanted to check in and see how you're doing. And don't call for business. If you haven't talked in a while, the first thing that you do is don't ask for business. Just check in and get real and be the human friend that that they would want.
There you go. And what's funny is listen to the experts, because the experts can say, hey, if you farm a neighborhood this way, you have a high probability of winning. It's not guaranteed, but you have a high probability of winning. But also, sometimes people play into possibility, like I might win, and you could take the lottery, for instance. Probability, you're probably not going to win.
No.
But you have a possibility of winning the lottery if you play. And that gives a pretty good way of thinking about it. And, 2020 and 2021, we just played the game. We were so busy. We were out moving, the economy was thriving. We were just playing the game. Right now, it's time to go back and get into strategy around the game. How do I want to play the game? How do I want to win at this game? How do I strategize to go take territory, take market share, whatever my business is? I need to get back into my strategy around the game and not just going through the motions of playing the game.
Yeah, 2022 represented a probability that most people win in real estate. It was just a great year. The interest rates created cap rates and return, and in a certain taste or a certain attraction that led to success for a lot of people. It was still frustrating in that, multiple offers on everything, overpaying for certain things and making irrational buying decisions were kind of the MO of the year. And for some, they'll pay a price for it. And for others, if they're there long enough, it always nets out. Real estate, when's the best time to buy real estate? Now and any time in the past, if you hold it long enough and don't sell at the wrong time. But I think the possibilities, you have to be careful with probabilities and possibilities, because sometimes we hang our hat on possibilities, whether negative or positive, like the possibility that the entire economy cracks and everyone goes into, you move from recession to depression. I mean, that could happen. That is a possibility, but it's simply not a probability. Invest time stressing out about things you can't control is a tremendous mistake. But I also believe, to your point, the probability of fewer people winning next year or this coming 23 is highly likely. Not everybody's going to win, but the upside is that there's going to be available market share when people do bail on the industry and quit and go back to other occupations and leave real estate sales, who are just kind of picking and plucking a deal here, a deal there. But, 25 people plucking a deal two here or there could change your trajectory. That if they were extricated from the industry, that's a win for you. But part of that whole method and the message and method strategy for advertising is, where are those people going to be when they become an orphaned opportunity? And so there's a huge opportunity that may not pay day one, but if you plant the right seeds, fertilize, water, and expand your, that connected piece of, relational piece, you'll end up winning in the end.
There you go. Rick, 22, wrapping up, man. I learned a lot from you. I love starting our week this way. I'm incredibly grateful for you. You're going to make me think about this every time I eat ice cream, probably for a few days, but I hope I don't eat a lot of ice cream. I'm already eating too much good food at the holiday season, but
there you go.
Here's the thing. I just would challenge people as the year's wrapping up. Live in gratitude, live in love and laughter with your families and close friends and whoever you get to spend special time with over the holidays, and get your head clear, because 2023 is going to need you in the game.
Absolutely. The world needs the voice of reason and support and positivity. Make sure that you can't give away what you don't have. So make sure you're grounded in probabilities and not living in the land of possibilities, so that you make better decisions in how you approach things and how you feel about things. And then the conversations only get better. And to your point, Brett, I appreciate you as well. It's been a phenomenal year. I feel like we've really made a difference in each other's lives as well as those that we serve. And I want the listening community to know that we care and love you, and that there are 79 other Mojo Mondays that on any given day, if you're not feeling full potential and your mojo's a little low, then we're here to fill up your cup and make it happen for you and with you.
And I want to end 2022 with Rick Hale's commitment around when I'm getting that song.
First quarter.
There you go.
First quarter. It's coming. I'm supposed to write the theme song to Mojo Monday. I'm not necessarily going to perform and sing it, but I'm writing it.
Yeah, you might need to.
Take care, brother.
Bye.
Happy holidays, everybody.